I think it's time I did some solo work. Hope you're okay with that. Love you, buddy. All right. See you later. Hello and welcome to Talk Heathen! I'm Eric Murphy. It is June 2nd, 2019, Season 3, Episode 22, and I'm so excited that you're here. I am going to have a special guest in just a little bit, but in the meantime, you're stuck with me. So, it's been a while. It's been 2 weeks since I've been on, and I've absolutely missed it. And I'm really, really happy that I get to be here with you today. I do have a few personal announcements, nothing too big. Last month, I did a debate up in Oklahoma, and Matt said he was going to put the footage of it up on his channel, The Atheist Debates. I don't think it's up yet, but stay tuned for that, and you could see a video of my first debate. It wasn't great. It was my very first time, and for some reason, I was super nervous, like it was my first time on stage. So that's okay, though. I'm working on it. It was a first, and I'm good with that. Let's see. Other than that, next month, I'm going to be up in Nashville, Tennessee for the Ask and Wonder event. It's an absolute dream to get to tour and do all of that, do the show, be involved with the ACA, and I'm excited. But both of those events are separate. They're my own separate thing, all money coming out of pocket, and it's okay. It's worth it. It's what I love to do. Without anything else, though, I'd just like to get into calls. I miss that. So let's start with R.A.O. R.A.O., you helped me with the testing the phone lines. How are you doing today?
How are you doing today? I'm doing excellent, man. It's great to talk to you again.
It's awesome talking to you, too. What did you want to talk about today?
Well, I actually, since I've been getting involved with you, I've been getting my brain beaten around by your fans for the last couple of months or so, and I've moved from a point of certainty to, at this point, I'm an agnostic theist, where I don't know, but I think there is. So I've never really been part of organized religion since, well, going on over 20 years now. But
okay.
Right now, I'm dealing with not knowing how to let my son know how to find his own path, because I found out a week and a half ago that he's an indoctrinated Baptist.
Okay. Is going to Baptist church something that your son does every weekend, or?
I
guess how old is your son?
He's 14 years old.
Okay. And so, have you been taking him to church, or maybe a friend, or?
Well, we've actually been separated for a while now, and when he was 6, 7 years old, I was taking him to Buddhist temples. I was taking him to mosques. I was taking him to synagogues. I was just trying to expose him to everything, so he knew that there was more than just that out there. And at the time, my girlfriend was atheist, and so I figured I had that covered in the house. So
sure. Well,
I wanted him to be able to make an educated, informed decision, and he can't even explain his belief to me right now.
At 14, I wouldn't expect him to. He's still trying on a whole bunch of different hats at that age. That level of development is huge. I mean, geez, I think I liked Dane Cook at 14. It's a bad time. It's a dark time. You know, I think at that time I was wearing puka shell necklaces and I had frosted spike-tipped hair. It will change in time, but continuing to be that resource.
Sound like you came from the same 14 I did.
Right? Right? Shame. Yeah. I should find those pictures. But what I'm saying is, at 14, it is a time to explore things and try on different hats, and it's totally understandable. But what you really need to keep an eye on, and this is just my advice, and I'm just some jack off in Texas, But what I would say is keep with the epistemology. How do we know things? How do we learn things? And it's not just something that you apply to religion. It's thing that, you apply skepticism every day in your life. And giving him those tools, he'll be able to use them moving on into the future, but you've got to explore it.
Well, I appreciate that a lot, and I appreciate everything that this group does for me, that this group does for atheists, for believers, for people who are on the fence, for everything that you do for your own community. Yeah, it's just thanks for all that, and I think I gained a lot here.
I don't even know where to begin saying thank you for that. It's the reason we started the show, and knowing that we're able to help, or at least let you know that you're not alone, that we can talk about these things, and it helps. It's life affirming. Thank you. Thank you. You have a good one, all right? You take care. All
right, we'll get into some of that other stuff some other time. I just had a serious matter that I thought somebody might be able to hear besides me.
I think it's a wonderful point. And yeah, absolutely. If anybody's watching and they're worried about their teenagers, they're going to teenage, But the fact that you care means a lot. I remember taking a statistics class in college, and my professor leading off the course by saying, that there was a correlation between people who picked up parenting books for their kids when they're still pregnant, and people who didn't, and how they fared as parents, and how those kids, when in the future, different markers like, success personally, professionally, and all of that. And you would say, well, it looks like there's a causal link there, but it could also be that if you're the kind of person who's buying those parenting books, you are probably more likely to be that better parent because you're caring. R.A.O. It's
because you're already putting in the effort at that point.
That's right. I'm glad that you're putting in the effort. Thank you, man.
Well, thank you, Eric, and all y'all over there at Talk Heathen. You have a great day.
You too, brother. Bye. All right. See, that just starts with some warm fuzzy. Oh my goodness. Dave in Pennsylvania. You're talking to Eric Murphy. How's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
Doing good. I'm looking at the notes. I'm really excited about this.
Well, it's going to be a brief call. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I'm sure you want to get to other callers.
So, who are you? And are you a religious person, an atheist? What's your...
Satanist.
I think you are our first Satanist.
Really? Well,
yes.
I feel honored.
I'm honored that you called, my friend. What did you want to talk about?
Well, I wanted your opinion on something. My wife and I have been considering. We bought a house about 10 years ago next to a grade school. Mm-hmm. And we're considering converting it into a satanic church.
Oh, that's awesome. Are there any city regulations that would potentially butt up against it? Have you talked to like FFRF? And I know that American Atheists also has lawyers. I think y'all have lawyers too, just to make sure that would be kosher.
Oh yes. Well, I'm sure it's going to go over like a turd in a punch bowl, of course, but I still think that something like that is necessary. I mean, when the way I see it, Christians often act like bullies. They use their authoritative positions to control people. And this is a way to kind of put a thumb in the eye and show them that they don't have that control and they can't, be bullies.
So one of the things I'm really excited about this call is I have somebody else in this list who wants to talk about what persecution would look like the other way around. And so I wanted to talk to you first, Dave, because I wanted to kind of draw that out and maybe talk about it and maybe get your opinion. If you are looking at somebody who's, Christian, and they're saying, "Oh my gosh, I'm so persecuted," what's the difference between a Christian?
You hear that a lot.
What's your take on that? What do you think?
I think it's bullshit. I think that they're just crybabies. They see anybody that gets a right, be it a gay person, a trans person, a different religion, they see themselves as somehow losing a right, and that's part of the problem. I don't know about anybody else's experience, but the majority of Christians I've interacted with are, and I don't want to sound insulting, but I can't really help it. They're just not that intelligent. They haven't really tried to break out from their religiosity, and part of that is understandable. They've been steeped in it from birth. So if that's all you knew, well, what else are you going to choose from? It's like the menu analogy. If you keep going to the restaurant, the only thing on the menu is spaghetti, yeah, it makes sense that you're going to think spaghetti is the best meal you could ever have because it's the only one you've ever fucking tried.
I the only place that I would push back on is I would go, I totally like that analogy. But just because the menu only has spaghetti on it doesn't mean you're not intelligent enough to find, you know what I mean? That's just all the options that you have. So I wouldn't call people who are religious, less, proficient, in any of those things, because I've met tons and tons of absolutely brilliant Christians and Muslims and atheists and whatever.
No, that was a generalization. I'm not saying they all are. I've met some very intelligent Christians too. But the other thing is too, where the analogy I think extends further is not only do you think spaghetti is the best thing on the menu, you think everything else that could possibly be on the menu is evil. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Meatloaf. Oh my God, that's from Satan, or some shit. Can't have meatloaf.
Yeah.
So I just don't think that they've ever branched out or read. If I have an opinion that is in question, I try to find other stuff that challenges that opinion and try to find what's right. But a lot of Christians just don't do that. They're just very comfortable and safe in their belief structure, and they're afraid to step beyond that.
And what you're doing and what your group is doing, are you with the Satanic Temple?
I'm a member, but I'm not affiliated or anything like that.
Okay. Well, getting involved with the Satanic Temple, what's really fun about it is the way, you're taking something and you're flipping it on its head. It is part of,
right.
Well, actually, can we just break this apart a little bit? Because there may be Christians who are looking at this going, oh my gosh, this person worships the Dark One. Let's actually clarify that a little bit. So do you actually believe in a living, breathing Satan?
Oh, of course not.
Of course not. And living, breathing God?
No, of course not.
No. So when you say you believe in Satan or worship Satan, what do you mean by that?
Well, it's not really a worship thing. You can be affiliated with a group that is a particular religious group, be it Buddhists or whatever, that don't necessarily believe in a specific supreme being or a deity, whatever you want to call it, something supernatural. But they still believe in the tenets of that belief structure, and that still qualifies you as being whatever label you want. It could even be Christian. I actually know Christians that don't necessarily believe in the supreme being aspect, but they believe in the teachings. They think the teachings are worthwhile, so they continue to call themselves Christians. And who am I to say they're not? Right? It's not up to me to tell them they're not.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. I was in a conversation with someone, and they were saying, "Well, how do you know if a person's an atheist?" And I say, "Well, they say they're an atheist. Why? Arguing that is tempting the no true Scotsman fallacy, and I love that you're willing to give people exactly what they say that they are, and you meet them where they're at. Dave,
well, this is, oh, go ahead.
Oh, what I was going to say is, I want to know if you do it, and if you do it, dude, I want to follow up with you. I would love to hear about this as it happens.
Well, I want to do one more thing that I think that would be very, this is just for the hilarity.
Okay. Don't lose our nonprofit status, Dave.
No, it won't be that.
Oh, what's up?
My wife makes great cookies, and what I thought about doing is having her make a bunch of cookies and putting them in these boxes and giving them out to kids for free, right? But underneath the cookies would be the sticker for the Satanic Temple. So when you finish the cookies, there's the sticker. And kids love stickers. They'll put stickers up everywhere.
My goodness. Run that by lawyers first. Because you don't want like any allergens, make that a no-bake, gluten-free,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we'd have to go through some process. I would just love to see the looks on people's faces when they get to the bottom of that box. I think that would just be...
I think that'd be hilarious. Dude, keep in touch with me, would you please? My email's eric@atheist-community.org. I would love to keep in touch. I'd love to have you call in again and find out as this goes along. I absolutely advise that you get legal advice for all of this stuff because that is way above my pay grade. But it's the best way to cover your ass.
Sounds good.
All right. Dude, thank you for calling in.
Thanks for taking my call.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so we got a few donations. One of them was for $50, and Hopswatch says, is Pastor McMurtry sexually attracted to pumpkins, perchance? It's just that I don't know. And that seems to be the case with everyone else, too. There's a pastor of a hate church. I've actually seen this online if you haven't seen it. Check out Mr. Atheist. And he, I guess, was called Mr. Pumpkin. There's this whole thing. All in all, from what I've seen, there's a hate group wanting to do something at Pride in Florida, having a conference called Make America Straight Again. It's a hate group, and they openly advocate for the murder of LGBTQIA plus people. And so a bit of fun by making fun of some really horrible people. I'm not saying Pastor McMurtry is sexually attracted to pumpkins. I just don't know. I also, in the comments, got a whole lot of people saying no sod this week. So, okay, you have been heard. No sod this week. I do have a few open lines, though, so if you want to call in, now's the time. 512-686-0279. That's 512-686-0279. If you're a religious caller, you're going to get to the front of the line. Don't leave me talking by myself into the camera. That's going to be awkward and weird, and we're both going to feel weird, and I don't like that dynamic. But speaking about Pride, one of the things that I'm really excited about next month is when I'm heading up to Tennessee, I am going to go to Pride in Nashville. And I'm really, really stoked. And then after that, it's going to be the Ask and Wonder event where I'm going to be doing that thing. So if you're there, I'd love to see you there. But right now, if you'd like to call in, that's 512-686-0279. And let's move on to Dave in Florida. Dave, how are you doing?
Yeah, hello. Pretty good. How you doing?
Doing all right. What would you like to talk about today?
Yeah, well, I guess it's kind of a wide subject because it's more or less about drug addiction and alcoholism and how it's treated and how it's been accepted. Like AA has been, I guess, the most common form of self-help or whatever, and it basically says, you need to have a higher power to rely on in those moments when you just can't control it yourself. And so it's very, very difficult to be an atheist and, get into that. And not to mention there's all these faith-based rehabilitation things. Like I went to one in faith called Faith Farm here in Boynton Beach, and they get a lot of federal money for basically spreading. They don't even advocate AA; they advocate something called Celebrate Recovery, which is a Jesus AA. It's crazy, how this stuff works. But I was brought up Christian, and I guess I considered myself Christian until pretty recently.
No, welcome.
I did know that most Christians around me would consider me just satanic. I mean, because I would speak in reason. It's it's crazy what I've seen down here in Florida. I guess I never really saw the kind of
well, I mean, I
blind faith.
there is a subreddit called Florida Man, and I absolutely love it. But I actually want to touch back on rehab. You know, that was the kind of crux of the reason that you called. And you're absolutely right. For those people who don't know, there are a lot of religious groups that will say, oh, hey, we're a rehab center, and then get tons of government money for it and use them as places to proselytize. There are secular alternatives. Smart Recovery is one of them.
Yeah, there are.
And I
there's
highly
not
suggest.
a lot.
Well, other than Smart Recovery, are there any that you'd like to plug for people who are looking?
Well, there's Rational Recovery. There's, you know, like I guess if I get into any type of, I guess you'd call it religious, would be like Buddhist temples, but it's not. It's pretty much atheist. It's just a matter of meditation, and I find that to be the most helpful thing. But you know, it's funny because the guy that opened that faith-based place, it's a thrift store as well. I mean, they get all kinds of donations, and they're plagued by people stealing that are at the head of the organization, but they can't press charges because then it'd become public and they wouldn't get donations. So the guy opened it back in like the 60s. His name was Pappy, and he opened it for a 2-night stay because he wanted to save the souls of people he figured were going to die. And then he'd kick them out after they accepted Jesus, and his job was done. You know, he could let them die, but hey, they're going to go to heaven. So as far as the caring heart,
well, the Christianity doesn't have they don't have a hold on it for sure. We just need to show that, you know, we are kind, we're empathetic, and being a good human doesn't mean being a Christian. It just means being a good human. Dude, I'm glad that you called in. Another piece that I would throw out there is the Recovering from Religion Foundation. They have a very comprehensive list of resources, and so if you haven't called the Recovering from Religion,
I just found that.
Yeah,
and I was looking, but I don't find any groups around here. But this is a really crazy place. Like,
give them a call. Give Recovering from Religion a call. They have a text line and they have a phone line, and it's toll free. It's peer support. It's private. They won't share any of your information, and their resources are second to none from what I've seen.
Yeah, I mean, and the reason I wanted to call them in the first place, my wife comes from a very fundamentalist background, and she is plagued by feelings that demons will come in by listening to me talk, and it's crazy. Like, she is really it's like child abuse in my mind. You know, the way they bring these kids up with this fear of opening doors to spiritual whatever. Like,
I feel weird about talking about somebody that I haven't met, but if she was ever willing to call in, I'd be happy to talk to her.
Yeah, I'll try.
Definitely.
Because she's actually listened to a couple of the first thing I started hearing was Matt Dillahunty's
The Atheist Experience.
The Atheist Experience. And I was reading Christopher Hitchens and sharing that with her, but she's very, she feels guilty about listening, so I don't know that she'd call.
Well,
I'll try.
Take time. These kinds of things take a lot of time.
She comes from Brazil, where they believe in, spirits, and they have
you get those everywhere. And yeah. Hey, Dave.
It's fucking nuts. Yeah.
We're getting a little off track.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
But I do appreciate it. And if she wants to call, I'd be happy to talk to her. And in the meantime, I'm glad you're there as a good influence. Somebody who can say, hey, let's look at this together. But you take care, man, and I hope to hear from you again.
Great. Thanks for what you're doing.
Thank you, man. All right. Oh, my. I've got a call from London. So it says Kahuzan.
Hey.
Hi.
It's Kazam.
Kazan. How do you spell?
Kazam, like Shazam or
Oh,
Al-Kazam.
Kazam.
Like K-H-U-Z-A-M. Yeah.
Okay. Is that just a kind of a fake name?
No, it's my real name.
That is awesome. All right. Sorry, I that's just okay. Cool. So, Kazam,
Hi.
what would you like to talk about?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about an issue that I had with atheists or just people that question a fair bit. It's because I have beliefs, and I've always had beliefs about different things, including religion, obviously, because I grew up in a religious household.
Right.
But I've had my doubts, of course. I've had maybe even an atheist phase. I don't know if I can call it that. But the main thing is that I feel happy when I think about a God or a caring figure, something like that, even if it doesn't have to be related to my religion. I'm a Muslim, by the way. I just like knowing that someone is there and that someone cares. And when I keep getting asked by other people that, oh, can you back it up? Can you tell me why I should care about what you feel or what there is or what there isn't? Like, it kind of hurts.
Why do you think it hurts?
Because it's like if someone tells me that, oh, like, why should I care about your beliefs with your mother? Like, I'm trying to share these things with them. And even when I'm not, like, if they know I'm religious, it's like, why do you believe this? Why do you, do you know about all the bad things that come with your religion? Why can you not just separate this from your God? And I'm just a little confused and a little hurt.
Yeah, well, Kazam, so a few things. First,
yeah.
A religion can do horrible, horrible things and still be true, right? So that's kind of aside from the point. If you're having a moral argument or if you're the one saying, oh, well, religions do great things, then that might come up and you could have that conversation. But the question about whether or not it's true, and it sounds like at the core, please let me know if I've got this wrong. It sounds like at the core you're wondering why atheists would ask you so many questions that that you kind of equate questioning your beliefs as, questioning you as a human or your intelligence or ability to understand.
Maybe not my intelligence, because I've tried to back it up before I used to go with things that there's science in the Quran, and I gave up on that. I've given up on a lot of, there was one called Kalam cosmological argument. I gave up on that one as well because I could see that there were flaws in it. So it's become really hard for me to justify it that way. But what I can justify it is with my feelings. At least that's what I think, and that's what a lot of other people who believe think. So why is that a problem to people? It feels like they're trying to almost convert me to their side.
Okay.
When I'm already happy.
Well, so I guess I've got two things. One is another question, and the funny thing is you're calling and saying, how come they're asking so many questions? So I feel kind of bad. So I maybe I can share a bit about myself, and that can help contextualize it, yeah? So Socratic questioning. Did you ever take a philosophy class?
Yes. I know a little bit about the Socratic Method. Not much, though.
Okay. So, when, you get a child that's 2-3 years old and they learn why, and that becomes their new favorite word, why?
Yeah,
why is that? Right? And it just goes back and back and back, right? It's almost like that. You keep asking why. And the reason you do that is because eventually you hit a hard point and you start to wonder why you think about things a certain way. Right. And what that is it's not the issue anymore. Now it's the actual tools that you're using to understand things. It's your epistemology. Right. And there are times when we explore our epistemology and find that some tools are flawed and some aren't. Talking about it in religion might not be the best place for you to see that difference because you're tackling a bunch of things, but you can use those epistemic questions in other things in your life that maybe you're not as attached to, right? And you can go, okay, well, how come it goes like this? Yeah.
I try to be a better person when it comes to like really hot topic debates like abortion, I don't know, gun control, even though that doesn't affect me here. Like I enjoy having these discussions, but sometimes it's like I don't like using, but I don't know, triggered, offended, and it doesn't go so well because then I lose my cool, and then everyone starts. Not everyone, maybe. Sorry, this is a bit hard.
That's okay. I honestly, I'm really empathizing here because is it that kind of gut feeling? It's kind of in the pit of your stomach.
That's what's there, and I want to know why that isn't enough for someone else. I'm sure there's some beliefs that they have. Maybe they feel like they're the smartest person in the room. That might not be, like they say, objectively true, but they believe it, and they feel good believing it. So why can't I have these beliefs and be not be subjected to, hey, question them, hey, change them?
Yeah. So a couple things, and I'm actually really excited to get to share it because none of this is an attack. This is me kind of sharing about myself and what I've learned from people around me, right? So Socrates called that feeling, that gut feeling, that bad feeling when you're questioning whether or not you even know something, right? It's called aporia. And it's aporia. And it's like, it's an existential pain. It hurts. And on trial, he compared himself to a gadfly, saying that he is causing this pain to the horse that is Athens to cause the horse to move in the right direction, right? And then later on, Martin Luther King, when he was in Birmingham prison, compared himself to that gadfly as well, right? Bringing things up that made people feel uncomfortable, so because they needed to face a truth, right? They needed to question what was going on around them. That pain, there are different ways that you can approach it. And I've got to tell you, man, every time I get that feeling, that pain, I've got to remind myself, holy moly, I could be wrong. And for me, I want to know as many true things as I can and as few false things as I can. So if I learn that I'm wrong.
Comparing truth to happiness, though, like what if the truth makes you unhappy?
I'd still rather have the truth.
Even if you'd be clinically depressed?
I am clinically depressed.
Okay, I'm sorry to hear that.
Me too. It's a really shitty club. But I'd rather have an ugly truth than a pretty lie. And I've got to tell you,
why? Even
in my depression, this is a wonderful, amazing, beautiful world. We don't need to add any other framework around it, whether, that to make it fluffier or shinier or anything like that. It's nice over here. It's not what you think.
I don't question that. Like there's so many good atheists out there, just the same way there's so many good religious people. But if this religion, even if it is a delusion, which I don't want to accept, that if it makes people happier, if it makes people get up in the morning, if it makes them get the energy to get out of bed and work and provide for their family, then why not? Just leave them be.
Well,
if they go about their lives believing that.
Couple things. I hear what you're saying, and I've had this kind of conversation with family members, and so this strikes close to home. So you get to make the choice, right? Whether or not you want to know true things only, and follow the evidence where it lies, or try and stick with what makes you feel comfortable. I think there are a lot of arguments that are in favor of searching for truth. On top of that, let's say here's an example. Let's say would it make you feel good if I told you that you won the lottery?
Yeah, but I just recently studied that people aren't too happy with winning the lottery 6 months later. So maybe not so much, but initially, yeah.
Well, replace it with amazing scenario X, right? You just found out that you are the single heir to a amazing country, whatever.
I love it.
Yeah. So how long would you hold on to that, even if it wasn't true? Like, would you want people to tell you the truth, or would you want to, live your life as though that were true, quit your job, move out there, at some point?
Well, practically, it would make a difference, right? Like if I were told that, I don't know, in 20 years I'd receive the inheritance and I'd keep looking forward to those 20 years, and then maybe I died before the 20-year mark hit, at least I was happy knowing that, oh, it's there, and like that made me comfortable.
All the way up until you made promises, you can say, hey, I'm getting a loan and I can use the inheritance as collateral.
Then, yeah, practically it'd start killing me, so maybe not. So, yeah, I would prefer the truth there.
So when it comes to religion, are there any practical downsides that you can think of?
If you're a fanatic, or if you of course we hear about ISIS and we hear about terrorists, and of course there's that, and not even just those, like the population of countries like Pakistan, like other Muslim-dominated countries, like they have some really interesting views about LGBTQ and other like abortion-related cases where they're pretty strict on it. So that does discriminate, and it might have something to do with religion, but it's not everyone.
I'm not saying it's everyone. But there are people that we should be looking out for. I'm less worried about the bigot in Florida and much more worried about their child who's trying to survive until they can get out. Right? We are propping those kinds of things up, and we're giving them allowance. And the fact is, we don't need an excuse to be good people. We can just be good people. And by the way, once you find out that what you believe isn't true, you can't make yourself believe it again. You can't put that genie back in the bottle. You can't unring the bell. You can lie to yourself.
Like maybe that's what I'm doing, but it sure doesn't feel like it. It's like I said, I have had maybe an atheist phase, but it's always like I want to go back to the comfort I had when I felt like someone was there. And even when I was going through that phase, it was like someone's there, but I might be actively blocking him.
Sure.
I'm sorry if it's a really confusing call or something.
Dude, that path is one that I know that I've traveled, and a lot of people who've called in and written in have traveled that path as well. It's scary. And where you go from there is ultimately going to be up to you. The best that we can do is try and give you the best tools that we can. I want you to live a happy, fulfilled life, and I want you to know as many true things about the world as possible. And when you get that nasty feeling in the pit of your stomach, just remember that that is what eureka feels like. It's uncomfortable.
That's an interesting way to put it, yeah.
It's uncomfortable. It hurts. But that's when you get to go, oh, crap, I have something to learn. And because of that, because we were able to admit, you know what, I don't know this, instead of holding on to the comfortable lie, that's how we moved forward. That's how we moved our society forward. That's how we get the technology that we have, and we're able to live in this amazing time. I mean, the fact that people have embraced their ignorance and said, oh my gosh, I don't know this. I want to learn. I want to figure it out. That's what makes me so jealous of the next 5 generations, 10 generations, because I'm not going to live long enough to see the amazing things we're going to do.
Yeah, we're not going to space, and we're, I don't know, too far in to explore the seas and that meme. So,
well, maybe in our lifetimes, but maybe not in the future. It's exciting, man. But you don't get there when you stop trying to look for answers. There's nothing wrong with looking. As far as people asking you those questions,
that's
for people that I know, and in my experience, it has come from a well-meaning place to try and get you to question. And as far as my worldview is concerned, I think there's nothing wrong with questioning everything, right?
Okay.
But what you need to do is you need to set those boundaries for yourself that you feel comfortable in. And if those people are saying, hey, I want to talk about religion with you, and you're like, I'm kind of done today, you're allowed to be done. Mm-hmm. Say, hey, I care about you. I want to have conversations with you, but sometimes I get overtaxed at this point. So maybe we can talk about this over coffee, or we can say maybe we could talk about this for half an hour whenever we talk about this. But then we set the timer, and when we're done, we can move forward and do other things.
Often.
Right?
Yeah, but I think you're right. I should set up more boundaries. Maybe be a bit more stern about setting up the boundaries rather than about my religion.
And you know what? You can point them to this show, and you can say, I talked to Eric, and then give him the timestamp.
Okay.
All right?
I'll do that. Yeah.
Kazan's friends.
That's kind of why I called as well, kind of a cheat sheet. Hey, I got some information from
Yeah, Kazan's friends.
Yeah.
It's awesome that you're wanting to work with and talk to him, but it takes a long time for people to move through and epistemically change. And it sounds like he's absolutely willing to continue to engage, but we've got to learn that friendships are more than just talking about a single topic. It's about going out, it's having fun, it's enjoying each other. And we can still do that without having to agree with everything. So I hope that helps, man.
Yeah. Yeah, it does, and thanks. And I'm sorry again to hear about your clinical depression. I hope I hope you're getting better.
Oh, well, you know what? It's a diagnosis that I think I'm going to have for the rest of my life, and it's okay because my identity is not my illness. It's a part of me that I live with, and with medication and therapy, I am able to live a fulfilled life the best that I can. I just want to be able to talk about it so that more people don't feel so stigmatized about it, because it's just something that we deal with. We move forward, and that's all right.
Yeah, that sounds like a good cause, and thank you for taking my call.
Hey, thank you. Take care. Oh, I hung. Oh. Aw. All right. So I think it's about that time. We are halfway through the show, and I'm going to thank our top 5 patrons. Without you, we wouldn't be able to do all of the fun stuff that we do. It's because of your support that we're able to keep the lights on, that we're able to do the show, that we're able to start new shows. It's why we've been able to put a coat of paint on this building this week. We have some amazing volunteers who've come out, and the building is getting painted. We had this big nasty shed that was falling apart, and it's getting taken down, and the fence is getting worked on. And this community building has needed a lot of TLC, and it's because of that support, $1 and $2 donations mostly, that we've been able to afford that. We also are able to help other organizations who really, really need the help, that are worthy causes, like the Foundation Beyond Belief. We were able to partner with them and fund them $25,000 a few months ago so that they can expand their Beyond Belief network. These are awesome things that we're able to do, and we're only able to do it because of you. If you would like to become a patron, please go to patreon.com/talkheathen to me. That's patreon.com/talkheathen to me. Our top 5 patrons are Neil Bradley, Charlotte, Desert Heathen, Dr. Funkenstein. Oh my gosh, I love that name. Dr. Funkenstein. And Nando Gonzalez. It's because of you that we're able to keep this going. And I, from the bottom of my heart, I have to say thank you so, so much. If you can't donate, that's totally cool. I get it. And there are other ways that you can support the show. And you can hit that like button. Lately, people have been hopping in just so that they can hit dislike before the show starts. If we hit that like button, if we subscribe, we're able to get that message out more. We're able to increase the signal, and more people can get to see the show. And that's awesome. Also consider leaving us a good review. We don't get them very often on iTunes and Google Play. So those are ways to support us. Due to studio magic, I'm happy to bring in Genetically Modified Skeptic.
Hey, people.
Hey!
So I haven't been here for a little while, so you're going to have to help me with my mic here. Or
No
my
worries.
headphones here.
Okay, so... Oh, I'm plugged into the wrong one. Here, you're going to plug in here. Okay. We're going to freak out the back room right now. All right. Can you hear okay?
Yes, that's much
cool.
better.
Can you adjust this and see if that gets you?
Yeah.
All right.
There we go. Perfect. Yeah, that's a little embarrassing because, I've been in the studio too many times to not know that. That's kind of like I feel like a joke that people have at this point, or maybe I'm just being paranoid, but I joke about it myself, how bad I am with, God damn it, Josh, shut the fuck up. someone shaming me.
See, this is what happens. I bring you on the show, and you just, dude, I'm so happy to see you, brother. I've got to say.
I derail all like live things that I do, so I have to reel it in when I actually have, there's a crew and all that.
Volunteers, live studio audience.
Hey, people.
So before we dive in, I do want to say, if you haven't checked out Genetically Modified Skeptic, the guy's amazing. He's an incredible friend. He just had his birthday yesterday. Happy birthday.
I appreciate it. Thank you for coming to my birthday party. I'm not going to lie. I'm a little tired. I'm not hungover. I'm just really, really tired. So, but yeah, it's kind of thanks to Eric. We had a nice game last night where we all insulted each other. And as nice as Eric is, wow.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
He can get really nasty.
What?
I mean, you guys have probably seen me live. I don't have that much of a filter compared to my videos. It's like, I think it's night and day. But yeah, Eric beat me. Like really badly. And I can't even say the joke.
Nope.
Yeah. Get on my Discord. Maybe I'll tell you on my Discord.
Oh gosh, watch out for his Discord. All right,
Let's do some calls.
Well, before we dive in, I do want to say it wasn't me. I brought the cake and stuff, but the party was at Matt Dillahunty's. It was a ton of fun. Thank you, Matt.
And thank you, Megan.
And thank you, Megan, and everybody else who came. It was a ton of fun.
Yeah, it was a blast.
So now that we've completely alienated our audience, let's move on to Adrian in Texas. Hey, Adrian, you're live with Eric and Drew.
Hi, happy birthday.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay, I don't have a lot of time, so I'll just dive right into it on what I believe in and why. I believe in a creator God because of all the evidence that was left behind, like the moon and DNA and the tilt of the Earth and the distance from the sun that the Earth is, and the position of Jupiter, and the tectonic plates, and the what else is the ozone layer and the magnetic field.
So, Adrian, let's talk just a little bit broad scale, okay? So, in order for evidence to be good, when you're backing up a claim, that evidence needs to lead towards one of those proposed solutions over another, right? So you would need to show a link there between each of those things and a creator God. Which one is the one that you feel you have the most evidence for? And we can take a peek at it.
The creator God?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. That's it. Just the creator God.
Okay, so you were bringing up tectonic plates and DNA, and which of those do you feel is evidence of that creator God? The strongest that you feel you could back up that we can talk about?
Maybe DNA.
DNA? Okay,
well,
so let's talk about DNA.
The experts. I just go by what the experts, when they say that those things look to be, designed or, then, that I take that as like a medical examiner looking at a body and saying, there was foul play here.
Okay, so experts is something that you're trusting, as I understand. That's right?
That's right.
So if an expert disagreed, and now I don't want to make an argument from authority, but I just want to go down the road that we're going down right now. If an expert disagreed that DNA was a code that was maybe constructed rather than naturally evolved, then what would you think about that? If there was an expert that disagreed with the maybe expert that you've heard say what you've heard them say?
An expert that disagreed, I would take their word at it too. I just haven't heard any experts say that there's evidence of no God.
Well, I don't know that scientists are quite concerned with conducting experiments or examining natural phenomena in order to assert that there is no God. I think a good scientist is someone who focuses on science rather than trying to prove a specific worldview. But I do have to commend you. You sound like you're quite open-minded about this, because a lot of the time when we ask people, this is why you believe this, and we say, if this was the case, if it was, different, hypothetically, then you're saying it is, if this reason was different, if this case was different, would you change your mind? A lot of the time people say, no, I still wouldn't change my mind. So I commend you. I think that's very honest. So I appreciate that. Now, hopefully not to go too basic atheist. This is not quite an atheist book. It is a biology book. But I would strongly recommend that you read Richard Dawkins' The Selfish Gene. I think that's a good jumping off point when you're trying to understand how DNA comes about naturally and how it doesn't necessarily require a kind of coder or programmer like computer code seems to. There are natural mechanisms by which DNA can change and improve, can evolve, devolve. So I think that's a good source to start at. Now, I think that we both sound like people who like to not speak on things scientifically that we're not experts on. And so that's probably the best that I can do to make sure and just have a proportional response to what you've said, is to recommend that source, The Selfish Gene, Richard Dawkins. What do you think about that?
Richard Dawkins is actually the one that I heard say that DNA looked to be designed. And you can look that up on, there's many,
I've actually
look it up on YouTube. And,
yeah, I've seen that quote, and if you watch the entire quote, it's taken out of context, because immediately after that he says it looks like it's designed, but it's not for this reason.
Yeah, there actually is. I don't know if you've seen. What is it? It's that like Ben Stein
Saves the World. That one?
No, it's man.
No, there's Bill Nye. Oh, no, Ben Stein is the other guy. Oh, my gosh, he's got the other one. Yeah.
Expelled. Yeah.
Oh,
so there is a
that's
movie
right.
about intelligent design called Expelled, and I actually was really into that movie. That it sounds like something you may be referring to. If I'm wrong, I'll still just get out this point quickly. There are some films, and on either side, I'm actually not a fan of Religulous, Bill Maher. I think that a lot of interviews and stuff in there are coached and dishonest, but I'm glad there's someone in the crowd that agrees with it. I don't want that to be like heresy or something, but but Expelled, there are some rather coached and dishonest interviews in that movie. And if you watch like Richard Dawkins, for instance, talk about his interview with, I believe Ben Stein was the one who made that. He'll say
that is an expert, right? That is an expert, Richard Dawkins.
Richard Dawkins is
designed, right? You agree with that? Or?
Do you understand what out of context means?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I told you that quote was out of context, and then you asked me to agree on whether or not he said it, then yes. But you would probably also agree that would be a dishonest way of saying that, right?
No, because he's an expert.
Okay, so it's
not me making it up. It's an expert saying it.
Okay, then use the entire thing. Otherwise, it's dishonest. I'm telling you, it is dishonest when you take somebody out of context so that it looks like they're saying something that they're not. And if you did not know that, that is a tool you can have in your belt. It is dishonest.
Okay. All right. I apologize for that.
No, that's okay.
No, you're good. You seem very honest, and I really appreciate that, because a lot of the time, it turns into knockdown, drag out kind of conversations about this stuff, this topic in particular. And I've had them in the studio before, and they're not very, very pleasant. So
I love them. That's my jammy jams, man. I'm in it.
But
I like to be honest, and I don't think. I think if you know this information and you still say that you don't know, I don't think that that's really being honest.
Okay, so let's take a look, because you've shared that all of these things you think point to a God, right? and you're saying that you've heard experts say it. We're believing you to the degree that we're able to have this conversation, but if we need to flesh that out, that's probably not something specific for this show because we need to be doing research, but there are questions that I can ask you. The first was a great one that Drew asked, and that was, well, what happens when you come across an expert that says something contrary? How do you determine that? That would be a great thing to look up.
I haven't heard any experts say that this was evidence for, no creator.
Why would you? Okay, how could you possibly study that? Do you understand? Okay, so let me. I'm holding up a coffee mug, right? This coffee mug is evidence. Hold on, Adrian. Hold on. I'm holding a coffee mug. I don't know if you're watching, but this Talk Heathen coffee mug is evidence for the lack of existence of a God. So I'm saying that. Now, how do you evaluate what I just said? Do you believe me?
Wait. If the coffee mug is evidence?
Yes.
Or
the non-existence of your God.
The non-existence of the God.
I've got another one. I've got the Book of Eric. The Book of Eric. Now, this book is a holy book that I've seen people saying this in the chat.
Let's go back to the.
Well, hold on just a second. I actually am writing the Book of Eric.
I haven't brought up any books. I haven't brought up any books yet. So.
No, okay. it's not books. It's just an example.
Yeah, this example I'm saying is proof that there are no creator gods. Do you believe that?
Yeah, if an expert said it, yes, I guess I would.
So you're talking to me. Do you believe that?
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, you would have to give your credentials and, are you an expert?
Okay. What if I was... So I think you should probably look a little bit more into how to determine whether or not something is true. Relying on experts is fantastic so long as you're able to understand and go through that process. Otherwise, you're going to wind up with some really wonky stuff. Nobody says... so let me give you an example, right?
I just use logic and reason.
Okay, that is a bastardization of logic and reason, and I can actually... So, hold on. All of the things that you just said also prove that I am God. Every single one. The ozone layer, DNA, tectonic plates, the whole nine. All of them are evidence that I am God. Do you believe that?
A creator God.
I am, sure. And my name is Eric. So, do you believe that? Adrian, I'm not trying to be a jerk or anything. I'm honestly asking.
It's not a trick question.
No,
it's not a trap or a trick question at all.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that I know what God looks like.
I'm not asking you if you believe what God looks like. I'm specifically asking you. I said everything that you just said is evidence for a creator God is evidence that I am that God. Do you believe me?
You would have to prove it with more evidence.
I agree. Have you put your beliefs through that same rigid testing process?
Yes.
You have? Okay. So how did you determine that DNA is evidence for a creator God?
The experts said it.
The experts said it. What did the experts say, Adrian?
Well, you can look it up.
Yeah.
There's lots of experts that say that DNA looks to be designed.
Okay. Can something look to be designed and not be designed?
Can something look to be designed and not be designed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So how do you tell the difference?
We would have to see. Something looks designed. It's yeah.
Okay, so let me.
Yeah,
No worries. I'm going to help out a little bit here, right? How do we tell if something is designed? What we do is we follow the evidence wherever it goes. We don't start with a possible ending in mind. We just follow, just like Drew said, wherever the evidence leads you, right? So,
like a car or something, right? Like, how would we know if a car was designed?
Right.
Or
so,
like nature didn't just put a car together, right?
Right. And so, you're okay. I'm sorry. I want to make sure that we're. You follow the evidence where it leads you. You don't start with the conclusion in mind. Right? And so if you were to say, this is evidence for a God, then my question is, did you start with that conclusion in mind? Because that does not feel or appear to be sufficient evidence to come to that conclusion. So the example
like if you were looking at a car, like if you're looking at a car and it looks to be designed, you could say like the radio or the tires and everything looks to be designed. Like there's things about it that look to be designed.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I'm saying. So there's things that look to be designed.
You're giving an example of something that's designed. That's fantastic. But then you're claiming something else is designed, and we're not going to agree with that. I'm not going to give you that. You have to prove it, not just say it looks like that. Right? We can actually give you a process that can lead to complex genetics, right? If you follow evolution, if you follow, changes in allele frequency over time, given geologic timescales, you can wind up with incredibly complex things that were not designed. We can show you what the process is to the best of our knowledge.
Though? Like with thinking like that, what wouldn't you say was made by nature, though? Like, you could look at a car and say that car was made by nature with the way that you're thinking.
No, I couldn't.
With your logic.
Nope, not even a little bit, which tells me you don't understand evolution. So how can you not understand evolution and still say you've looked into it?
Aren't you saying that that things can just give the appearance of design?
Yeah, so I can put a bunch of different rocks of different sizes in a box and shake it around. And if I shake it enough, the larger rocks will settle to the bottom and the smaller rocks will settle to... All right, or is it the other way around?
Either way.
Either or whatever.
There's some kind of pattern in the way that they're sorted, yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to get crucified for that online. All right. But all
right, guys. Well, I just wanted to tell you what I believe and why.
Sure. Adrian, keep asking questions, because what you're doing is not getting enough evidence. You actually need to look for the evidence, because right now you're just giving us the claim. You haven't backed it up. You're saying that looks complicated, therefore this is true, right? And that does not compute. That doesn't lead to it. So you actually need to look for evidence to back up that claim.
I strongly encourage you, instead of looking at the end product, like looking at what we have and then saying this looks like this looks like that, do your best to study the process behind the, maybe you could say, creation or evolution or just progression of this thing into existence. So if you're looking at like a car, if you studied the process by which it came into existence, it would suggest design, and you could prove design that way. Now, proving a negative is not quite something, and that's a kind of a different conversation. Proving a negative is really not something that you can quite do.
You can.
I don't think it is a negative because there's so much evidence.
So if you're studying, I'll just leave you with, if you study DNA, study the process by which it changes and it's come about from something much simpler into something much more complex. And then once you have deeply studied into that process, try to determine whether or not there is any kind of reason for an intelligent designer to be inserted into that process to make its change and evolution necessary. At that point is the point where I think the God hypothesis is a reasonable one. And I think that if you study the evolution of DNA, then I don't know that inserting God in there is necessary or rational. So again, I gave you the Selfish Gene, Richard Dawkins. I would read that. And I appreciate you being open-minded and willing to take sources, and hopefully you call again. I think this was a good talk.
Definitely. Can I ask just a few last questions before we go?
Sure.
Just yes or no questions. Adrian, if you found out that DNA was brought about by a process that is completely natural without any without any need for a creator deity, would that change your opinion on whether or not a creator deity exists?
Well, there's a lot of other evidence, but
I'm asking you specifically about DNA. You found out that DNA is not where it goes, and would that make you go, okay, there's no creator deity?
Oh, man. Well, I thought I just answered that sufficiently, but...
You said there's a bunch of other stuff, which kind of tells me that you're actually not hinging your belief on this. You're saying, this looks good, I'm going to present it. I'd actually like to talk about things that matter to you in a significant way. Otherwise, we're just batting around a really shitty ball.
So to be fair, and Adrian, you can tell me if you think this is correct, it sounded like he said he wanted to give the strongest answer he could, and now the strongest doesn't necessarily have to be a hinge. And now when I went through my deconversion, I went after the strong stuff first, and then there were a couple of things that were kind of floating around that felt like weak justifications. And I couldn't honestly say that after those strong things were defeated that I was like an atheist at that point.
You know what? That's a really good point. That's a good point.
But yeah, so I think it's a point of intellectual honesty. I think I would rephrase the question in, would it change your confidence? Not would it change your mind entirely.
Oh, we're getting street epistemology here.
Would it change your confidence that a creator God was the definite answer?
Right. If there was evidence, scientific evidence that there was no creator God, then of course I would believe that. I don't know why I wouldn't.
I think I want to just clarify this thing here, because I don't quite assert that I can prove that there is not this creator God. The way that I understand nature deems the idea of a God unnecessary for its creation, I guess you can say. Now, if you understood natural processes to be such that a creator God was not necessary to explain what we observe in nature, would that affect your confidence in believing in a creator God?
I don't know. Let's see. So can you say that one more time?
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's a little bit wordy. If you observed nature and you observe the processes by which nature has come about, and you found that no God was necessary to make nature come about in that way, then, like with DNA, for instance, would your confidence be affected as far as your confidence in believing in your creator God?
If there was evidence that you didn't need a God?
Essentially, if there was enough evidence to where you felt like, you know what, a God is not necessary to explain this.
Yeah, I guess I think we're talking about the same thing. Like that would mean there was this evidence that proved that there was no God, right?
No.
Not quite. And there's a lot of atheist videos you can watch about this. I would recommend probably Cosmic Skeptic is quite good with this. Now,
okay, gumballs. I'll just grab the
he's good. Yeah.
Talk heathen. Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. We're gonna do this.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you a quick analogy.
We're having fun here. Yeah.
Actually, Adrian, we can do this off the air. Because we're kind of trailing down a little bit. Actually, no, I want to keep you on here. Okay, so in front of us, I have a jar of gumballs. Okay?
Okay.
So you can hear it. Probably doesn't sound that good if you're listening to this as a podcast. So this jar of gumballs is sealed, and I'm going to pretend that I'm bringing this jar of gumballs to you and to Drew. You know he's never seen it. He knows you've never seen it. You're looking at this jar for the first time, okay? Are we good there?
Yeah, I've heard this one, odd and even, right?
Yep.
And you would be, I don't know, right?
Right.
Okay. So wouldn't that be like 0% chance of being correct?
No.
In the gumball guessing game? And then even if I guessed, I would have 50% chance at being correct. And you would have 0% chance at being correct if you said, I don't know.
Yeah, but I'd at least be honest. And also, that's a binary. There are actually tens of thousands of religions that you would need to add to that. That's Pascal's wager. You would need to add tens and tens of thousands of possibilities.
God. I'm just saying a creator God. I'm not getting into the whole, like which specific God or anything like that.
Okay, so
not yet until we agree that that a creator God is probable.
Okay,
and then we could get into like which specific gods.
Okay, then we're going to need to, we'll take this on the next call. That was really good.
It's a longer conversation. Okay. You're asking good questions.
Yep.
I really do appreciate that. This will lead into something a little bit different, so it's good, I think, for us to take another call. For sure. But yeah, definitely do call in because if we're talking about binary thinking and burdens of proof and proving negatives, that gets into it's a little bit philosophical. And Eric is pretty enthusiastic.
Oh, I can sit down for a beer and just go all night on that one. All right, but Adrian, take care. Hope to hear from you again.
All right.
Bye.
God bless.
Well, that was passive aggressive.
I don't know. For me, when I used to do that, it was just so second nature. Like I had to like stop praying reflexively. So sometimes I wonder when that happens. People are like, "Oh, just like have a good day." Like.
You know what?
God bless, Godspeed.
That is a very charitable way of looking at it. I like that.
I tend to look at it that way because I was there at one point. So I've
advised people to be charitable on that, and I wasn't charitable right now. Thank you, dude. See, you're hired. No, I love Jamie. I love you, but I mean,
he seemed like a nice guy, and so I would tend to interpret that charitably and think that he meant that as like, have a good day.
Cheers.
Okay.
All right. I kind of want to keep moving on with theist callers. Okay. Andrew, in Ohio, you're live with Eric and Drew.
Hey, Eric, how you doing?
Hello.
Hey.
Can you hear me good?
Yeah. Can you hear Drew?
Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. What would you like to talk about?
I don't know. It doesn't matter. I guess we can talk about the design argument.
Well, it does matter. If it's not interesting, we probably should move on to an interesting call. I mean, you want to talk about design?
Yeah.
That kind of picks up from the last call, doesn't it?
If you have something unique that you wanted to bring in that you told the call screener, then that's totally fine.
Have you gone over the premises of what the argument from design is?
No, I was just looking for arguments from more scientific arguments.
So let's go over the premises first. Can you lay out the premises for what the argument from design is? Just so we can inform. This is an educational show.
Well, when we just look at the Earth, the magnetic field, how it protects us from solar winds.
No, that is not the argument from design. That is an argument from design. I'm asking you what the actual premises to the logical argument from design is. Right, premise one.
We're talking about life on Earth.
No. We're talking about things appearing to be designed, and if they're, Do you want me to give? I mean, do you have the argument from design on you? Do you know what the argument from design is?
I was just going to use some science to try to demonstrate how rare life is on Earth.
Right. So, I'm just going to read it to you because it's very, very simple. And we can go from there.
We are a nonprofit educational organization.
We are. So the teleological argument, or the argument from design, I'm pulling up Princeton here. All right. Ready? All right. First, it is an indisputable and yet remarkable fact that many natural objects appear to have been designed for a purpose. Example, the eye for seeing, the hand for grasping, etc. That's premise one. Premise two, the only reasonable explanation for this appearance of purpose is that natural things are ultimately the product of an immensely powerful supernatural intelligence, namely God. That's premise two. Premise three, therefore it is reasonable to believe that God exists. So which of those premises do you think that we have a problem with?
The third one.
The second one. The second one. The third one's the conclusion. The second one, though, that it is reasonable to explain this by saying that it has to be the product of God, right? That's a statement that just is not supported. It's throwing something out there. And so as we talk about this, I want people to understand that we're attacking the second premise, because a logical argument, right, a good argument means that true premises lead to true conclusions, right? So we're looking at whether or not those premises pan out. And if they don't pan out, then we can't be sure whether or not the conclusion is true. So let's take a look at your premises. Now, what argument did you want to bring up about design? Let's give us your best, because we have a bunch of other callers and not a whole bunch of time left, but I want to make sure that we get the time to at least address one.
Just the atmosphere, how we have 5 different layers of our atmosphere: the stratosphere, the troposphere,
Okay.
the exosphere.
Okay, what about it?
We have a magnetic. Go ahead.
What about it?
The fact that that protects us. We also have a magnetic field that protects us from solar winds, but Mars and Venus do not have one.
Okay, so what?
Just the rare design of the Earth, how it's the perfect distance from the sun. It's 93 million miles from the sun. Our sun's a type G star.
These are all facts you're throwing out there. That's fantastic. So what?
Well, it's how we're going to look at things different.
No, it seems like we're agreeing on the type of star it is, and that we have an atmosphere and other planets don't have atmospheres. I don't know why you think that an atmosphere is rare. I'd want to question that, but I think that's a rabbit hole. I'd rather attack really what the premise is here. So what?
But we both agree that the Earth is in the habitable zone.
Yes.
But would you agree that the moon's in the habitable zone?
You know what? I don't have the science for it. Drew, do you?
It's in the habitable zone, yes.
Yeah, because it's circling the Earth, and the Earth is in the habitable zone, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's within a certain distance from the sun, depending on how, yes, the moon would be in the habitable zone,
okay.
But it's not, that doesn't mean that it's habitable.
Right, because it needs to have the existence of all of these other elements like water and...
Right, it doesn't have a magnetic
nitrogen.
field. That's probably one of the biggest things, so it wouldn't collect an atmosphere,
Yeah. Anyway, so we have a moon and it circles the Earth. So what?
Well, planet Mars, well, you look at the other planets, our moon and how it affects the tides and everything, you can just see the design in that.
So does seeing the design in that defend that second premise that necessitates the only way that could possibly be understood or explained is through a God?
I'm not trying to prove God today. I'm just trying to give you some evidence of how rare life is on Earth.
I think that we're very well aware of it, and that's something that I think is really astonishing. You know, I definitely marvel in that. I mean, it's something that's like the closest thing to a spiritual experience. I think it is the same as a spiritual experience. I just understand it to be natural, and that's the real difference. So I think that we get that.
I think it's natural, but I don't think that it's necessarily rare. We just don't have enough data.
Yeah.
But I know, because we're looking for habitable zone planets all the time.
Yeah. So again, so what? If you say it looks designed, okay, how did you get to that conclusion? Have you designed planets? Have you seen planets designed? Have you compared them against planets that haven't been designed? And if there are planets that haven't been designed, then how do you compare them with each other? So you're saying Venus has not been designed and Earth was?
Correct. Venus has an atmosphere, but it's so hot that it would melt lead.
No, that's not what I asked. I said, do you think that Venus was not designed and Earth was?
Correct.
Okay, how do you know?
How I know that Earth was designed?
And Venus was not. What do you know about Venus that I don't, that Drew doesn't know? Because
it's almost look at the size comparison. It's almost the same size.
So what? Who cares?
It's so different.
Who cares? That doesn't actually point to your conclusion. All it does is say that's a thing. Okay? You're implying a cause that you have no justification for implying. You actually need to show a cause. And I think if you had that proof, you wouldn't be bringing up the atmosphere. You'd actually just be giving the proof. but you don't have it.
What's going on right now is just it's a restatement of the first premise of the teleological argument over and over. And what we're asking for is a defense of the second premise.
Could you restate the second premise?
Sure. The only reasonable explanation for this appearance of purpose is that natural things are ultimately the product of an immensely powerful supernatural intelligence, namely God.
But if you look at our atmosphere, we're getting hit by 100 tons of meteoroids every day, and most of them are burning up.
Okay. Why is that evidence? Again, you're just saying things that I'm wearing boots. This is a book. This guy sitting next to me, his name is Drew.
Why does a fact being emotionally impactful or just astonishing or interesting have anything to do with the necessary conclusion that a God must have been involved?
We think this is a bunch of interesting, awesome stuff too, man. That doesn't mean that you get to squeeze your God in there.
I understand your skepticism.
I'm glad. How come you don't apply that skepticism yourself?
What do you mean?
Well, you admire the skepticism. How come you don't apply it yourself?
I think we are a design species.
I didn't ask you about whether or not you think we're a design species. I asked you, how come you're not applying skepticism?
I'm just not applying. I would never apply that amount of skepticism that you're applying.
Why?
Because I think it depends on how big your bias is.
Well, everybody has a bias. That's fine. Being aware of it actually helps you as you're applying skepticism. But why? It just...
But my bias is towards the Bible, and your bias is more towards naturalism.
You have no idea what my bias is because I haven't told you. So why? No, that's a cop-out. I asked you a question, and you just... No. Why?
Why or what?
Why don't you apply skepticism in your life the same way that you would see us applying skepticism, and you said you admired it?
I have no problem with applying skepticism towards the Bible.
Okay, please do, and then call back, and we'll take a look.
All right.
All right.
Have a good day. Thanks.
You too. Bye.
Thanks for the call. It's an interesting one. There was a good amount of space in the audio there. Good amount of silence.
Dead air.
You know, if it was a straight epistemology video, you would see like this for 3 straight minutes.
Some chin scratching.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the format of this show just doesn't really add to it. So we've got a couple to rapid fire through. Okay. Everybody on the line, we are going to get to you, but we're just going to be shooting through. So Bonnie in Wisconsin, you're live with Eric and Drew. Hey. What would you like to talk about today?
Well, it had to do with a caller, the Satanic Church. There is nothing in the Hebrew scriptures in the Old Testament that says Satan was bad. It's all, the devil doesn't appear until you get into the Greek scriptures, into the New Testament.
Agreed.
Now, you could interpret Hebrew scriptures as talking about like what they called the adversary. Things like in Job, which is thought to be one of the oldest books in the Hebrew Bible. And now a lot of the time, I was raised in a faith tradition that interpreted that accuser or that adversary as Satan. So it is a bit of an interpretation issue. Ultimately, if you're talking about an actual evil, anti-God character, I would agree with you, because it's something that, as far as I understand, the scholarly consensus is about the Hebrew Bible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's going to be up to the Christian to let us know where they fall on these things, because I would not bring that up and go, see, no, you're wrong about your own faith, because we meet them where they're at. Otherwise, we're going to be trying to do some no true Scotsman stuff. But that is an interesting fact. I'm glad you called in with it.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Take care. All right. Craig in Sacramento. That was good, right? Shooting through. Craig, hi.
Hi there, Eric and Drew.
Hey.
Hello.
This was kind of funny. You're early in the call. If the evangelical Christians are right, is Dane Cook the Antichrist and Nickelback the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse?
Oh man, I would never want to give Nickelback that much credit for anything.
You haven't been on a road trip with Megan Bonner.
Oh no, I like Megan right now. Don't change that.
Nickelback.
Oh, no.
I love you, Megan. All right, all right. What did you actually want to talk about? What's up?
I just was seeing an article about the Uyghurs being forced to eat and drink during Ramadan, and I'm not going to go into, like, under communist regimes, why that's the problem on there. But if, as time goes on, religion starts to fade and secularism and atheism starts really climbing throughout the world, how do you think we will prevent our majority, when we get there, from being that type of repressive aspect? Because I know I would assume that you agree that we are irrational beings that can reason. And if we replace religion with something else that's irrational, that even though it's secular and atheistic, it could still cause the same problems as religion does.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that the leaps forward in peacefulness, like in world peace and just overall well-being, doesn't have so much to do with people being, like, not necessarily, like, I don't think it's a result of people being atheistic necessarily. I think that being atheistic or being secular is a result of wealth, prosperity, and education. And so I would say that if we are coupling secularism along with that wealth, prosperity, and education, then I think that that's essentially the built-in way to spread skepticism, spread secularism without having to worry quite as much about being this majority that ends up being just as dehumanizing to minorities as religious majorities are. Like, I don't think that communist regimes that basically enforce atheism, they don't, like, spread some kind of skepticism. Like, they enforce atheism without providing any kind of resources. They're not educating people to the point where they become atheists. They're just saying, there's no God, shut the fuck up. You like, that's not how to do it.
I understand that. Yeah, the communists aren't really the issue on this. It's more of, because we are irrational beings, we will probably replace religion, even if we move further and further away from superstition, with something that is also irrational.
Yeah, that's where you practice humanism.
Are not right, and I agree with that. I just hope there are ways that we can prevent that from happening, because I do see reactions to posts saying, let's destroy all religion, it's good this is happening, and I don't really, that's the worst way to respond to something like that that's going on in China. We have to say that basically people can believe whatever they want as long as it's not affecting everyone else. You can have a faith in whatever God you want, just as long as you're not imposing that on everyone else. And when we start winning more, we already are winning, but as time goes on, I'd say it's like a few centuries before religion will actually fade away. We'd have like 6,000 years of religion being around to basically overcome that. And it's just making it so we lay the track that morality and ethics, secular ethics, is going to continue on is the whole point.
Agreed. I think that's well said. Was there anything that you would?
The thing I would disagree with, on? Like, I agree with a lot of that. I would disagree that, first of all, that we've seen 6,000 years of religion. I think that we've seen, how old's our species? About that long?
Yeah.
Of religion. I don't think religion's going to go away. I don't think it's ever going away.
And absolutely. You're right.
Yeah. I think it's something that is, it's not just some kind of weird byproduct. I think it's something that's basically built into us. Like, I would agree with you that we're irrational beings that are capable of rationality. Now, essentially, it's fighting off the worst parts of our own nature is what's going to help us make progress. I don't think we're ever going to be, if humans are not religious, I think that basically would end up making us count as a different species at that point. Like, we would have to evolve, like psychologically evolve in some kind of unimaginable way to be beyond religiosity coming naturally to the vast majority of people. And so if people ask me, are people ever going to stop being religious? I'm like, well, not human beings, not Homo sapiens. It's going to be something else. But yes, I think
hopefully we don't go to idiocracy.
Right. But I think that we have quite an upward tick of progress. I mean, if you read like Enlightenment Now, if you read anything or watch any lectures from Steven Pinker, it's very encouraging.
Right.
And
I was going to bring him up.
Yeah. And you see secularism being a large part of the success of societies. So I think that we're kind of on a slow grind up toward perfecting ourselves, although I don't think that we're ever going to get there exactly. Now, it is maybe frightening, I would say, that we are going to end up not having the religions that we have now, and they will likely be replaced with something else. Now, would we call that religion by our definition that we use, like, colloquially now? Maybe. Maybe not. Like, Durkheimian definition, like the Durkheimian definition of religion, that's just never going away.
I've got to tell you, as you were talking about it, Drew, you were saying, well, wealth, prosperity, education, leads away from that. And all I'm thinking is we're going on a road trip to Sedona. If you want to talk about it.
New Age time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm seeing Hail Satan today. Woo.
Okay. Oh, nice. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, the fact that you can get wealth, prosperity, and education does not necessarily mean that you're going to get rid of, that specifically. But I do see a correlation. I just don't know if I'd plug causation to it.
I don't think that human beings are ever going to get away from their desire to basically rape, murder, and steal. However, we can set up institutions that make it to where raping, murdering, and stealing barely ever happen. And we've seen that actually work. We can stave off our own nature with other parts of our nature that are actually to be encouraged for our own well-being. That's the path I want to go down. Not like, oh, just make it to where no one believes in religion anymore. Everything will be fine.
Right. Well, it fades away from a fanaticism into more of a moderate thing. That it's basically people believing in a God, maybe, but not a specific ideology or dogma.
There are steps toward what I would call progress, and that may very well be one of them. Yeah.
All right, Craig.
Thanks.
Thank you, man. Take care.
Fun call. I love talking about that stuff.
Holy crap! I am so proud that you're a friend of mine. My goodness, you are fucking brilliant.
I talk about that stuff a lot with my polytheist pagan friend, Ocean, which I'm sure people know. I mean, he was on here, right? He popped on here for a couple of minutes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Ago, so
actually, so the people I'm going to talk to in the when I go to Tennessee appear to be presuppositional apologists. And so I called Ocean. I was like, Ocean, I need your help. And he just kind of had this response like, I've been training for this day.
Oh, my God.
I'm ready. So it was good.
If I ever act that way, know that I need to be put on medication because that's not me.
All right, Tracy in Canada. Thank you so much for waiting so long. And Caleb, please stay on the line because we are going to talk to you too. But Tracy, you're live with Eric and Drew.
Hi.
Hi. What would you like to talk about today?
Well, I've been watching a lot of these, like a lot of your past episodes of, the show.
Ooh, I'm so sorry.
I'm almost at the point where I could be an atheist, but I'm not like quite there. I mean, it's come quite a long way since I was raised a fundamentalist, young Earth creationist. So
you have a peer.
You do. That is me.
Next to me. Yeah.
But go on.
It's just, I guess, okay, it's a bit of I'll try and keep the story short, but what happened was, like, when my dad passed away a couple years ago, like, my sister had the priest come and pray over him and stuff, because, well, my sister's Roman Catholic. That I'd explain that. But anyways, my dad had a stroke, and so he wasn't verbal. And so when my sister went to visit him, he reached up and, like, grabbed the crucifix around her neck. And everyone was saying, oh, that's a sign that, he's made peace with God and all that. And I guess it's kind of this thought that, well, maybe I don't know how to say it. That, like, how do I know that that wasn't what that was? You know, like how, because I mean, I like the idea of being able to see my family again, but at the same time, like looking at the Bible, it's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
So
can I ask you a few questions?
Sure.
So Tracy, I guess the first is, I know that because it sounds really nice to be able to, you know, go back and see those family members again. It sounds like a wonderful promise.
Yeah.
But whether or not you wanted it to be true, would you agree that either it's true or it's not? It really doesn't depend on whether or not you believe it?
Yeah.
Okay. That's okay. So we're on the same page there. I guess the next question is the story you gave about grabbing for the crucifix. Right.
Yeah.
So let's say that this person did that. What does that say about the existence of a God? I guess I don't follow.
Well, I guess because everyone, well, at least like, because I have a lot of religious friends and that, and they were all like, oh, well, that's a sign that, you know, he was saying that he was at peace with God because he wasn't able to talk and he wasn't able to do much because he'd had a stroke. And so it was, I don't know. I mean, I guess that doesn't really.
I mean, it says something about him.
I mean, it doesn't prove anything. Yeah.
And I mean, that's nice.
Yeah, was your question, how do you know that that was not some kind of supernatural action?
I mean, yeah, I guess because it's kind of like, that's sort of the last bit that's kind of holding me back, that I'm like, well, maybe this is a sign that there is something in the next, you know, like after we die. But at the same time, it's like, it sounds ridiculous, but it sounds nice at the same time.
Yeah.
I think the answer to that is that you don't know. And we can't definitively know that that was not God. What I would say is I think that we have more likely and more reasonable explanations for that. And I think those are things I don't necessarily even have to tell you because you sound like you understand those. I mean, he was in a certain psychological state, and I'm sure, you know, you can understand from there that things like that might happen. It sounds like he was a religious guy, yeah. And so we could understand how that could come about naturally. Now, I don't think that it can be shown that God didn't have anything to do with it. And that's what's a little bit difficult when you're making this leap. Because I felt like I was letting myself fall into a dark pit, and I knew I would never be able to climb back up again. But once I reached the bottom, I realized that it was no big deal. It's like in the cartoons when they someone falls off the edge of a cliff and they grab onto a branch and they are afraid to let go because they might die, and they realize that the branch is stretched all the way down to the bottom and they can just step off and it's no big deal. But I understand why.
It does kind of feel like I'm about to jump off a cliff. Yeah.
We've been in very similar scenarios here, and it's really not about proving that like a God doesn't exist or proving that God has nothing to do with it. What we have to understand is that it's a bit of a bias. It's called anchoring bias. It's like thinking that this explanation or the way that we look at things has to come back to this specific type of conclusion, or how does this information relate to this conclusion? Well, sometimes we have to realize that that conclusion is something that we're starting with and not something we should start with. It's something that we should end with if the evidence leads us there. Now, where does the evidence point in this scenario? I think that question is something that you've probably already answered for yourself. And it sounds like, and don't let me pry too much. It sounds to me, because I've been there, like you're reaching out for just confirmation that this is correct, and we know that there's nothing there. Is that a correct summation?
It's just there's a part of me that still wants to believe, but there's like the rational part of my brain that's like, you know what, this is absolute garbage.
I think Drew and I have both been in that place.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Do you think that you would change as a person if you called yourself something other than Christian?
No.
Do you think that
I think I'd be the same person, like, you know, trying to believe as much truth, like, because I really like what Matt Dillahunty says about trying to believe as much true things as possible.
Oh, yeah.
And a few not true things.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I really like that.
Me too. I ripped that off from him entirely.
Because I like to, you know what's true.
Mm-hmm. So what are you losing by walking away from or calling yourself an atheist?
Probably just my religious friends. So I've been making some non-religious friends, so that's helping.
So do you think if you were able to join a community that would take care of that?
Yeah.
So it sounds to me like, although you're not using the word, sounds like you're already an atheist, but you're more worried about how that would impact relationships. And that's something that people call in about all the time.
You're talking to the exact right two people about
that.
Yeah, because my best friend's brother is an atheist, and he's pretty estranged from the family because they're all like, you know, oh, we'll pray for you. And I was talking to her about it, and I pretty much got the vibe that if I went the same way as her brother, it would pretty much be the same thing of like, we'll pray for you, but we're not going to talk to you unless if you're willing to talk about God.
Sure. You know that you can be an atheist and not have to tell people.
Yeah, that's true.
It can be quite difficult, especially if you're very religious, because questions come up quite a bit. I mean, being a fundamentalist, that's supposed to be every part of your life, really. So for me, just me not going to church that regularly was like, are you an atheist? Because only atheists don't go to church sometimes. Like, you know, and so that can be difficult. But
yeah,
I think regardless, Tracy, you don't have to call yourself an atheist to be a part of this community.
That's true.
You don't have to take on that moniker if you're not comfortable with it. You're not alone. You're not alone. And it's going to be okay. You don't have to suffer in silence or alone. We have our communities that we've built. You can check us out. I know Drew's Discord is terrifying. But
no, that's actually something I was gonna leave you with here before Eric, closes this one out. Was if you want to chat about these kinds of things with other people who have gone through it or are going through it now, and it's not really like people are trying to convince you to be an atheist, because I know that when you're in a transitioning phase, you want to make sure, this is about me believing what's true. I don't want someone to just convince me with this agenda. If you want a place where you can just hang out with people and talk about these issues and maybe receive some moral support online in a place that it's so anonymous and it's so just secluded from the rest of the internet that your fundamentalist family will not find you there, come to my Discord. If you go to, I don't know if you really even know who I am, but if you look up Genetically Modified Skeptic and you go to, just one of my recent videos, go to the description. There's an invite for you right there for my Discord. If you want to talk about these things, there's a channel in my Discord called Coming Out, and there's also something called Open Discussions, and we're here to support you. I get on the voice chat all the time. I will probably be on there today, tonight actually, if you want to be on there and chat with me more, because I'm going to be driving a lot.
Driving back home.
Yeah, but that's a place where I hope that we could continue to help you and help you find the community that I think anyone in your situation, including myself, would need.
And then I would be remiss to not also mention that we have multiple channels in multiple places. So there's a productions private group, an ACA productions private group that if you joined on Facebook, nobody would know that you were there, and we have an awesome community there. We also have a Discord. So there are plenty of places to reach out. You do not have to do this by yourself.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Big, big hug. You take care, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Oh, the feels.
Man.
Yeah.
The main reason why I like having an audience now is because that happens much more often than it used to.
Yeah.
Like, I now spend as much time doing that type of thing, or sometimes actually a lot more doing that than like making videos. Making videos is something that allows me to reach out to people so that we can have those conversations. So anytime we have a conversation like that, it's very touching and fulfilling.
Yeah,
to me.
it's life affirming.
Yeah.
It really is. I agree.
Really appreciate those calls.
Tracy, whenever you do decide, or if you do decide to reach out, we're here because we already consider you part of this community.
Definitely.
So, all right, let's move on to the next. And our last caller for the day, Caleb in Maine. You're talking to Eric and Drew. How you doing?
I'm great. What's going on, guys?
Hey, we are way
Doing
over
great.
time, but you've been waiting for so long. I want to try and shoot through and see what you wanted to ask about or what you wanted to talk to us about.
Well, I super appreciate you taking my call. I just want to say real quick, I'm actually a huge fan of both of you guys. You guys were pretty essential in my deconversion, so.
Much appreciated.
It's awesome.
Yeah. Well, it's a long road, so I definitely identify with the last caller for sure. But okay, so my question is probably like one of the few like vestigial beliefs that I have. I wouldn't even call it a belief, but it is regarding human rights, which you know, as having been a fundamentalist Christian for a long time, my definition for that probably really needs to change. But I guess, and I've rephrased my question like 3 times while I was waiting. So I guess the best way to ask would be: do we have any basis on which to say that humans are deserving of rights?
So for myself, I tend not to use deserving. It's actually, and it's something that I don't necessarily talk a whole lot about with people, but that's not a word that I tend to use. The way that I look at bestowing human rights is essentially humanity has a shared goal that is, you could say, man, if you really want to go with the whole cosmic skeptic rationality rules discussion about objective morality, that got really, really deep. You could say that we're biologically programmed to have similar goals, and some of the things, like one of the big actions we can take to help us accomplish our shared goal of humanity, of thriving, is bestowing human rights upon others and upon ourselves. And so that's the way that I look at it. I think that just about everyone, I mean, there's like the psychopath type exception there. I think the vast majority of people want those human rights, and the way, like pretty much the only way to actually have and ensure those rights for people and ensure human well-being is by deciding collectively to bestow them on others. And then from there, if you want to make progress, you can also study which rights bestowed upon people help humans to thrive and be in the best societies, best communities, and just enjoy the most well-being. That's the way that I tend to look at it, rather than framing it like, how do I come up with a justification for the deserving of human rights?
Right. I mean, I guess really where it breaks down for me is like we ascribe human, or we what's the word? We give rights to humans because we are humans.
Yeah.
But I mean, we don't extend them to other animals, which that's a whole other debate, which I don't really.
Oh, we're not doing talk vegan today.
Jury's out on that one for me too.
Vegan.
What's that?
I said we're not doing talk vegan today. That was my
Oh.
Nope, not gonna do it.
Yeah.
Nope. Mm-mm.
Fair enough. And I don't want to go. I don't want to go down that road. But basically, I reference that to say that it has nothing to do with like, if that being the case, it doesn't have anything to do with consciousness. So I mean, it effectively seems to me that like we attribute rights to other humans because that's what we are, and we want them to do the same to us, which effectively means that our rights or morality or whatever you want to call it is effectively like a self-serving construct.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, if that's fine, then that's fine. But like what I don't understand, what I had trouble grappling with that, because like rights to me for my whole life until like this last year were something instilled or imparted, from God, which, it explains the whole thing away. It's a panacea, and I get that. But
Sure. Well,
so I kind of struggle with the idea that it's a construct.
Have you read about the veil of ignorance?
No, actually.
I think that'll help. I'm going to try and sum it up quickly because I know we're over time, but the veil of ignorance is this concept used when you're talking about how you would create a perfect society or how you would structure society. And what you would do is you would construct it in such a way that if you do not know where you would be in it. Right. So.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Yeah, you're gonna.
Sorry, I didn't know that was what it was called.
Yeah, the veil of ignorance. Right. It blinds you so that you're not trying to optimize that world for yourself, but it's as equally optimal as possible. Right. I think has played out in a society where we ascribe value to each other, and I think it just works out equitably that it is in our best interests. Yeah, and as you go down that path, utilizing the veil of ignorance, whether or not you know that's what it's called, has just kind of worked its way in. I think it's just it's an eventuality that we needed to get to so that we could have the society that we have.
It essentially, I mean, you could call it a construct. You could call human rights a construct. Yeah. But that changes absolutely nothing.
Like almost entirely utilitarian.
It's almost entirely utilitarian. So you could see it that way, but the thing is that that doesn't actually change the fact that everyone, just about universally, people want to treat human rights as totally inalienable. It doesn't actually change things practically.
But wanting to treat them as inalienable doesn't make them inalienable.
Sure.
Well, if it's a concept that we're ascribing, then it is whatever we.
Yeah, we can call it that, but we have to recognize that it's by our own power. Yep. It's the same thing with finding meaning in life. We have to realize that we create meaning, and that makes meaning exist. And when you've been brought up with the crutch of thinking that nothing that is worth believing in is created by yourself, then everything that you think is created by yourself, is total shit. Your leg is broken and then you're sold the crutch. That's what happens with I think with a lot of Christians, Muslims, the Abrahamics.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
It happens.
Fucking well said, dude. I want to clip like 10 things you've said today and put them on inspirational memes. Just a beach. Quote by Drew.
Apparently, 100 proof spiced rum the night before is the that's the fuel that makes me say inspiring things to Eric.
He yeah, definitely. You should see him drunkenly play Smash Bros. It was just mwah.
I still kick everyone's ass.
Caleb, I'm glad you called, man. Thank you so much for waiting.
Well, thanks for having me.
Thank you. Take care, bud.
Yeah.
All right, so first I want to thank the people in the back because they're the ones who are making this happen. They're the ones who sat for an extra half hour. So thank you, everyone in the back. There they are. I want to thank the live studio audience. Thank you so much. Drew, I'm really glad that you came and joined. This is always a ton of fun. But we are going to start by throwing up some love rings. Yeah, there we go. And do you remember how to close out the show?
So you can start with the first part, and then I will match you on the second.
Sure. Oh, you can jump in at any point.
Yeah.
If you don't believe, we're working to build a community here together. And wherever you're from, wherever you're going, when you're here, you're home. And we need to provide that to each other because no one else will. This is your community. But if you do believe, we don't hate you. We just think you're wrong. See you next week.